Monday, the 14th of September. This is episode 34, I think, I hope. And yeah, so nice to be with you again for the beginning of a working week. Sorry, a wee bit late. We haven't had a Skeinz meeting at the mill for a weeny while. So Claire and I literally just raced back from that to catch up with what's going on, really. And as many of you were aware, I was away over the weekend because the diaries was early last week, and I have a confession to make. I got absolutely zero knitting done. Did take my knitting away with me, and I was staying with the best friend out in Auckland, in West Auckland, and there is a very good reason why I got zero knitting done, and I'm going to show you the reason why I got zero knitting done, because I pulled the knitting out, and hopefully this will. Oh yes, you can see it on. Look at that. This is the reason why I didn't get any knitting done. This is Hamish the Holy Terrier. This was about the only time that I could actually, no, tell a lie, I didn't completely get zero knitting done. I think I managed to get one round done on the Swan Show, and that's when he was like that. This is why I got no knitting done. Hamish the Holy Terrier was absolutely fascinated. In fact, this was the one time I think I did actually have my knitting out, and every time I tried to knit something, he's playing there with his big fuzzy brother. He was leaping. Oh, he was utterly fascinated. He is, for those that are interested, he is a 10-week-old wire-haired fox terrier, and he was an absolute trick. He spent a lot of his time every morning. He would come barreling into the guest bedroom and literally do a Superman puppy leap into my handbag, which is not the world's biggest handbag, but he's only a small terrier. And he would go and he would literally fish his way around in that handbag to find treasure. And then he would take off. And then one morning I woke up and went out and came back into the bedroom, and all I could see was this tiny little tail poking out from my bag, and he was in there. I had my gold wing sweater in there, and he was in there literally trying to drag the gold wing sweater out of the bag, because he thought that was absolutely fantastic, because of course that's knitted in Southlander and smells quite sheepy, and he was rather fond. So yes, Hamish definitely put a dent into my knitting time, because every time I pulled the Swan Show out, he would try and leap up and get at it. And when you've got all these floats like this, a little puppy claw or a milk tooth plus a float are not going to be, definitely not happy bedfellows. So for those who haven't caught up on the diaries from last week, there's been absolutely no progress. I'm hoping tonight I've only got one more round to do to separate for see, look, that's all I've got left. And this was Hamish. I had to rescue this. He literally tore off out the door with this in his teeth. Oh, honestly. So I'm still just here. So this afternoon, well, tonight will be the Great Sleeve and Body separation on that. So hopefully come Thursday, I'll have a little bit more progress to show you. Morning, everybody. Oh, Jeanette's been good. She's tidying up her stash. You know, isn't it funny, Jeanette? I did that. I've been doing that the last couple of months. In fact, I've even had some of my stash here for sale at the shop, just to, so I don't know, but I mean, you know, when you, and I'm a nightmare at this, there's stuff that I'd bought that at the time, like I was totally feeling that colour or texture or what have you, and then I'll buy a lot of it in. Then it'll sit there, and then I'd pulled it out and say, oh yeah, I'm not quite feeling that like I used to. Yeah, it's actually been quite cathartic to go through and actually sort it all out. And yeah, so I've done exactly the same thing. I need to still do one more cupboard that I've got at home that I haven't done, but I'm kind of hoping I'll get to that. And listen to me, and I tell you what, Auckland, good as gold. The minute I get back to Hawke's Bay, because the privet's awful. It was pine last month, privet this month. Tell you what, being hay fever sufferer in the world of COVID is not a good thing. I can tell you that right now. Anyway, how is and Hamish is beautiful. Hamish is beautiful. Honestly, shoes. Love shoes. I have never seen a terrier that can manage to get a shoe twice as big as itself through a cat door at lightning speed. But he seemed to manage it. He was honestly. Oh, I'm not. See, I mean, this. I have dogs too, and I've done puppies, as many people know. But see, ours, yeah, not terriers. And he was, yeah, he was just, he was adorable. He was utterly adorable. So yeah, no, I just had a lot of fun playing with it. Oh, Christine has just finished her hitchhiker. I expect to see pictures in the speakeasy, Christine. That sounds fantastic. I haven't even done any work on mine, and I want to get it done because I'm about 2/3 of the way through it. And once I've done with the Swan Show, I will actually get to finishing that off, I think. Now, what else? So, what else happened over the weekend? So, I got up to Auckland, and I left it on the desk. I did actually go and do some yarn shopping. I did manage to shoot to Spotlight. I never get to Spotlight, ever, never, ever. And I, dare I say it, don't die, people, but I bought some acrylic yarn. I know. But there was a method to that madness. I bought 2 balls of Lion Brand, and it's a long single roving print. It's the colour. I actually bought it for the colours were fantastic, and I just have this feeling, I'm feeling there's a lot of movement back to prints. People are missing prints, and I grabbed it for the colours. They were really rich, vibrant, almost tropical. Lush sort of tropical butterfly type tones. They were really, really fun. And the quality of the acrylic was quite good. And before you go, really, Marie, why did you do that? I've been playing around so much with those, the big double strands that I've shown you. And this is the sort of yarn that is perfect for that sort of thing. Because sometimes when you're wanting to do a really big double-stranded item or something really crazy like that, you need something with either a really big shot of color, a shot of shine, a shot of texture, something to actually be like almost the foundation of the piece. And I think that's what this is what I'll end up doing with this particular yarn, is I will end up adding it back to other things and adding other bits and pieces to it and other bits of texture, and probably do something like a wrap or a swancho or a poncho or something like that, just to allow the colour and the vibrancy of the yarn to show through. So I'm sorry I left it on the desk. I should have shown you. The other thing too is I called up with a friend who works for Bateman Books, and he had this for me, which was very exciting. He said this came out a few months with Bateman, Modern Knits, and these are all and the reason I wanted to show this to you is this is all a book around from the designer Christina Dene, and everything in here is using American made yarns. So why do you bring this up, Marie? Because we're in New Zealand. Well, partially because a lot of these yarns are quite rustic, and the American made yarns sort of in the traditional style, which is a lot of yarns that we do actually have here. And I have got some American-made yarn that will be arriving here very, very soon. Hopefully, fingers crossed, it'll be here at the end of the month or at the very latest next month. What I was desperately hoping I'd be able to show you today hasn't turned up. We're stalking the courier, waiting for it to arrive. But I haven't even had a chance to have a really good look through it. Here we go with the camera. There we go. But see, lovely piece of colour work there, which has got, and I'll actually jump because that one was the first one that leapt out and caught my eye. This was published last year, by the way. And I'll dig it out and see. I'm assuming since he was with Bateman, he's obviously selling this through. So this means that it will be available in local booksellers, and highly likely that this book will potentially be available in New Zealand-based libraries. So because he's works for the New Zealand distributor, so which is great. Now, I wanted to show you, where is it? That piece of colour work. Oh, it also had this in here, which I thought, it's basically a knitted striped hooded sweatshirt, which I thought was a really wearable piece. Where is it? Where is it? I know, yes, Marie should have bookmarked this. Yes, I know I should have. but I didn't. Because, I mean, where's the fun in that, people? Oh, I saw this too. I thought this was quite pretty. This, actually, for a spring and summer piece. Look at that. Isn't that pretty? Anyway, it's really classical, lovely, pretty designs. Right. Looking. It'll be, oh, there it is. There it is. So, right, it's called the Agate Bay Pullover, and it's done in Brooklyn Tweed Loft, and that is just to have it. Let's have a quick look at our gauge, and they then use the spin cycle dyed in the wool for the color element. Yes, so the gauge is 24 stitches, which is a sort of sport weight gauge, but 24. That's why I wanted to pull this out, because I was pretty certain this was the case. The 24 stitch gauge is the gauge that I use a lot on my Southlander. So the gold wing that I did, for example, is in exactly the same gauge. And looking at this, oh, there we go. Let's do that's better. Looking at this, see that with oatmeal, and then pulling out another colour in there, whether it be a single colour, or you could actually even stripe some colours in there. There's a whole heap of different stuff you could do. You could throw a print in there. You know, you would just probably need a unicorn skein or two to be able to do that. I think would be quite a bit of fun. But yeah, there was some really lovely designs in here, and this was another one that I quite like too. I mean, that's got Southlander written all over it, has it not? That beautiful natural shawl. Lovely. So I will make sure that I pop a link up for you to have a look at that. I really do suspect that this will be in some libraries, and if it's not in libraries and you are a regular user of your local library, knowing that the fact that that comes from a New Zealand distributor means that they should be able to access that fairly readily. So that's what I had there to show you. What else did I have to tell you about? Oh, who has managed, and look, I realised I set this all up and I realised you can't see it. Look, I made a little thing with my couch. The hippie homewares, wow, they've gone so well. You guys have absolutely loved them. I'm delighted. I tell you what, we've loved them, absolutely adore them. They've all now been packaged up. So all the cushions and the blankets, we've actually gone and taken an extra step and folded those out, placed those in our cello bags with all the information around hippie and who they are and the hippie story. And I'm going to organised to get Kate on to talk to you about it a little bit more from hippie. So they're all there ready to go if you're needing them for gifts. It's perfect for gifts, and we did that because they're easier to send out to you, but they're also easy for you to wrap and send. On the front page of the homepage, our homepage, skeinz.com, if you go down, there is I think it's what's new or trends. I have 4 little tiles there about things. And one of the things that's there, I'm pretty certain I've got it sitting there, is I've got a link to this lookbook. Now, obviously, we don't have every single item in here, because some of those have sold through, but this lookbook, if you wanted to download this lookbook to give you an idea of the products in their entirety, do have a look at that and check that out. That is free. You can download that. But the one thing that we've had them set up in the shop, and these have been incredibly popular over the weekend, have been these hippie hats. So these hats are incredible. They come in a variety of different sizes, and there you go. You can see all the different size variations there, and they are brilliant. They make absolutely wonderful gifts. There's the sort of classic cabled one there, which, I mean, that's timeless. I'm just chasing my pom-pom person because we get the detachable pom-poms. A pom-pom in one of those would look amazing. So I've got stunning, beautiful natural ones and grey ones which would look so good with these, so I need to get onto them. And that's the feather and fan that I've already shown you. So we have got all of these now ready and organised and sorted, and you can come and view them in store. So if you're looking, particularly if you've got birthdays coming up, spring birthdays, new babies arriving, or even birthdays, little people birthdays, and you're wanting to do something, I mean, I think one of these little hats for a child are just absolutely gorgeous. So do make sure you check them out. They're all 100% New Zealand grown in a single source in the Wairarapa, spun here by us and made by the team at Remar in Auckland. So they are we're really thrilled to have that. Really, really thrilled. And so thrilled to see how many of you have already picked those up and enjoyed them. What else do we have to do? Oh, Speak Easy. I was having a little roam around in the speakeasy the other day, and I noticed a few of you have managed to knit through some of the cascade designs and using the cascade yarns. And one, I think I saw Meredith had put up the Tangier Shrug, which was one of the ones I think I suggested on the diaries a few weeks ago, which is a beautiful side-to-side knitted sort of like, not true to some, it's sort of a side-to-side sort of shrug that you would wear similar to this one. And in the Malila, she did it in sea glass. So then the stripes were actually vertical. It looked incredible, Meredith. You must be utterly thrilled with it. It really did look fantastic. And that is a really great pattern. That was by Cheryl Beckenridge. And I'm going to make sure that she's got some really neat patterns, Cheryl. She is on Ravelry, but she does have her own website. And her pricing on her own website is actually really competitive, more competitive than Rav. So I'm going to send her, she also does a whole heap of designs as well for Cascade. So all her designs for Cascade are free. So do check those out. But I'm also going to pop a link to her website as well. And I'm going to hopefully in the next little bit pull some designs out for you to have a look at, because she's got a couple of designs there which would make really great transitional pieces coming into our spring down here. And there's some, there was a new shawl that I absolutely loved the look of, and it had sort of garter stitch with some lace panels in between, which would work beautifully if you've picked up some of the prints, the Cascade prints, and then you're wanting to sort of do something with a print and then put a solid color in between and actually play it, just have a bit of a play around. So I started diving into that before the meeting, and I didn't get a chance to get more of that out. Oh, Jen's saying her sinus is acting up in Tassie as well. Oh, honestly, this is seriously, I have breathed clearly all weekend in Auckland. No, and I've been out in rural Auckland too, not in town, been out in the countryside. Not a problem. Hit the Napier Taupo yesterday, and as I'm heading down the hill, all I could see either side on roads and hedgerows is a flowering privet. So that's what that's what's getting me today. It's driving me. Oh, there we go. So Barbara's just saying privet, wattle, and burse are all in flower. Yeah. So it's absolutely driven me utterly bonkers. Wendy is saying here she occasionally is guilty of succumbing to the temptation of acrylic. Try not to, but every now and then certain vibrant, fresh colours call. Yes. And because we don't use a lot of acrylic here. We do have the odd yarn that's had acrylic blended. We do use nylon a lot. And they are still part of that synthetic family. Nylon, I think we feel all a little bit more comfortable with, because nylon is something that we have it in our pantyhose and our socks, and lots of these sorts of merinos actually often come with a bit of nylon added back to them for strength and elasticity. But yeah, it was, and that was the thing. It was the color that did call, and it was, for me, it was nice to pop to. I was taking I mentor somebody with knitting, and I was taking them yarn shopping. They wanted to get a few bits and pieces, and so we snuck in there before they closed to the tail end of their sale, and they had a hankering. They were getting right into big chunky knits at the minute, and as I haven't got a huge amount in that really chunky end here. So it was perfect because they had stuff there. But it was, for me, really nice because I know Spotlight do bring in some Lion Brand, and I quite like looking at all the different textured yarns that they often have, because they bring in yarns not only from Asia but also from Italy, and there's some really beautiful fancy yarns out there, and the Italians do them especially well, and often they are predominantly synthetic, but they add color and texture and a bit of zing, and yeah, so I have to admit, these I'll remember to show it to you the next time. They really, it was the colors, it was such a magpie, like the most incredible vibrant purple and rich green, and it was actually quite pretty. Love the collar on your cardigan. Does it have a pattern online? I am picking, Margaret, the answer to that is no. And the reason I'm going to, actually, I'll ignore the sound of the creaking chair in a second. I'll just jump up. So this is it in its entirety, and I'm a bit hodgepodgey today. So it's a sort of a little flary bolero-y kind of thing. I knitted this in. What was this knitted in? This was knitted in. Boobs. This was knitted in it's vintage essentially, but it was vintage as we'd done it for someone else under another brand. And in fact, I knitted this entire cardigan out of thread waste. So a big bag and I had to wind it off, and it was all in little bits and balls and what have you. It is a Cleckheaton pattern from a Cleckheaton book. I would have knitted this more than 15 years ago because I knitted it whilst I was a customer at the Knitters Factory Shop, which is what Skeinz was known as before it became Skeinz, the Knitters Factory Shop. When I was still a customer, but I wasn't yet working here. So yeah, so it might even be, I possibly even knitted this about 16, 17 years ago. And it's all in pieces. And I mean, I haven't, it actually needs a reblock. And but it's one that this time of year I find quite good. What they've done with the collar, how they got the collar though, and I remember this, the collar is great. So the collar is knitted, is picked up. You sew the other portions together, and then you picked up the collar. Now, and it's all the way round the back. This sort of collar and pickup actually could be something that you could do on another item. So if you've knitted a cardigan and you've done, so this one is a set-in sleeve, but if you've knitted even a top down, or you've done something and it's got, you can leave it quite wide here. What they've done with this is they've picked all the stitches all the way up. It is let me count that, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a 5x5 ribbing. And how they've achieved the flare, and I remember this one, and it probably shows it quite well there. You started off with one needle size there, and then you graduated the needle size out to, I think it was like 4, I started like 4 millimeters here, all the way out to about 7 millimeters out to here. So that's how they achieved it. But this, honestly, is as old as the hills. But I dug it out today. It's sort of, it was first cab off the rank when I opened the thing this morning, and it's just right because it's not cold here today, but it's just a touch chilly, and I didn't want anything too warm. So yes, so that's what this one is. And actually, it's about having oh, here we go. Julia's just saying that book is in the Hamilton Library, but it's out at the minute. So there you go. So it sounds like that Bateman have probably done the sell-in to the libraries. And the book I'm referring to is Modern Heritage Knits, which is by Christina Dene. That's it there. It's just a really nice book. Do check that out. Where was I going? Train of thought. Oh, yeah. So just, it is about putting the library. And I'm going to grab it because I'm just flick this around. It's an absolute mess. But there's my library there. Just going to grab stuff. And this will be a really great example, actually. Is that, I don't know. I mean, like, for example, I've got a lot of these. I mean, how many of you have did these Joe Sharp books when they came out? Joe was, so Joe Sharp's still going. She's based in Australia, Western Australia, and really simple, really, not simple's not the word, contemporary, really contemporary designs. And I think, and she produced these books very akin to what Rowan were doing. So this is version 1, and this year. So the first one came out in 2006. This was released, and I've probably got the first 3 or 4 of these. And she also did another collection called Eclectic, and another one called, and I think I've even got. Oh, actually, in fact, I've got both of them. She did a number of collections first under different names, and I know these crop up actually quite a bit at op shops or things like that. This is another one called Bazaar, which was released in, this is 1999. She's been designing for a good long time. And see, this one here, and this is why I'm bringing this up, because so much of design comes around. I mentioned this in quarantine, I know, a quarantine diary, but a lot of stuff with design actually revolves around full circle. So at the moment, we're seeing a lot of stranded colour work. I'm starting to see a bit of intarsia sneak back in, quite a bit of intarsia here and there. People are experimenting with colour. They're enjoying colour. They're enjoying texture. They're looking at different shapes or ideas that are happening. And sometimes you just need to go back and have a look at different publications that you may already have, because you may actually surprise yourself at what you have there, because often a lot of things are already there that are sort of rolling around. So, for example, a really good example of this is at the moment, lots of designs. We're seeing a lot of classic Aaron's cables, Guernseys are starting to crop up with a number of designers. And many of them will actually already do them in the new format for top down, which is great. But sometimes doing actually those projects, they're actually worked best in pieces because of the weight of the yarns used, the texture of the stitching. You actually need those seams to provide structure. And that's when jumping back into old books like this, and this is where her books are quite good, because as you can see, she does lots of that sort of styling, but it's all very contemporary and quite modern. So, and I know a number, see, look at this one, see, look at that. See that now, see, oranges now, oopsie. I'm so bad at this. There we go. There we go. That's better. There's a whole heap. So that one, and so, I mean, I think this one I did actually pick up at an op shop. That one's Bazaar. So that one's 1999. That's eclectic. I think I did that one the other week to show you one of the items in there that would work really well with the Malila. This is another one. This one is called Holiday Island. I've seen this one. In fact, I've got 2 copies. I don't know how I managed to get 2 copies of this. But see, this is another one that had, so this was obviously using a lot of summer sort of bits and pieces, but, you know, designs like this. Classic little crop cardigans. And so if you're ever in, see, I think that's sweet. So the only thing I will say is that if you are of more generous proportions, like moi, modifications will need to be made. Joe's very, very slight. And this was also back in the day, to be fair, back in the day where, you know, the biggest size that you will often find in any knitting pattern at best was sort of 40 inches, 44 inches. That was the norm. That's being generous. Whereas now they will go bigger. But there is, modifications on stuff like this is quite easy, particularly if you've got quite classic and contemporary styling. Sizing something up is not a difficult thing to do. So if you're out in op shops, find those. Look back into your old libraries and see what you've got. Another one that I know is in the libraries, now that we're talking about libraries, and you're wanting to get something to knit. This is actually, there's 2 of these. I've got both these books. This is Big Girl Knits, and I think the other one is just simply called Big Girl Knits 2. There's 2 of them. It's got a sequel. It was so popular the first time. And this came out in, I haven't got my glasses on, so I'm sitting here desperately trying to see. There is, is there a date on this? There isn't a date on that. Fancy that. I think this came out around, it was in the early 2000s anyway. Oh gosh, it's looking a bit worse for wear. Oh. Yes. But this one does everything up to those larger sizes. So look, here's a really great example. So this one here goes up to a 3XL. But see, look at that. See, with the Malila, if you hit any of the Malila and you were looking for something to do, that would be perfect. I bring this one up because this one is definitely up. These guys do this one. I know I've seen this in our local libraries here. It's got a good selection of both tops. It's got a good selection of cardigans. It's got a good selection of skirts, and it just embraces anybody that's got curves. So there, yeah, check those out. Don't be afraid to use your local libraries. They're an absolute fantastic resource and a really, really good way of getting designs. And it's free, isn't it? Easy peasy. All right. Well, on that note, I'm going to head off and I'm going to blow my nose. Oh, hold on. Sandra is saying here nettle tea. Oh, there we go. Yeah, actually, no, I don't mind. I've had drunk nettle tea and I don't mind it. And I know you can buy nettle tea. I've seen it at the health food shop. Actually, that's a good idea. It's driving me absolutely potty, Sandra. It really is. All right, I'm going to stop yabbering. Have a great week, everybody. I will be back here again on Thursday. Hopefully, I'll have some new yarns to tempt you this week. Honestly, Claire and I are pacing and waiting for the stuff to come in. I'm really hoping I will have some progress on the Swant Show for you on Thursday. And yes, and restocks. We will hopefully know what the restocks are either later today or tomorrow, and I will, as always, pop that out on the newsletter. But until then, have a great rest of week, and I will talk to you again soon. Take care.